Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. Round 3 is done and another weekend full of carnage and having to dodge and weave around all these bullets flying through, not just for me but for all of our teams. So another tricky week to navigate, but ended up with the 1843 this week in round 3. So put me up 3,326 spots up to 18,959. So at least we cracked the top 20k. That's a good sign. Obviously, just inside the 20k for the round ranks. It's still not a good week so far to start the season, but it could be a lot worse. We've had some decent picks that have held us in good stead, and hopefully onwards and upwards. The positive thing is, as tough as the starts the season has been, I've been able to rise up in rank both weeks. So that's all we can ask for. Just got to keep moving forward, keep increasing the team value, keep rising up in rank, and hopefully we keep moving forward. So with hopefully some players moving up in value, being able to move on some players will be also pretty nice there. +3, -3. +3, it's got to go to Sam Davidson, right? 125 points. He was fantastic in his third game for the Dogs, and he showed us in preseason that he's a guy that could put out a score like this, and he did definitely that. He went up 110k this week, -39 break even. He's going to make a truckload of cash over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and he's definitely a guy that we're going to be happy to have on field in our forward lines. So for me, he gets a +3, but shout out as well to Isaac Rankin for 1 with a 116 and Nasai Wanganeen-Miller for a 112. Both brought them in this week. So it's always nice when you bring in two premium players and they go pop 110 plus scores. And yeah, they were both very, very handy. So happy with those two. -3, it's got to go to Jason Horne-Francis, like 74 points. I still don't know why the screen does that every now and again. But 74 points. Like, he hasn't started well. He started really poor, averaging 72.7, 82, 62, 74 is really disappointing from him to start off the year. But as DC said on last night's show with us, if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you do the round recap with me, Guesty, and DC from Matt Chat. Saying obviously 82 was okay in the first game. Obviously from a forward, an 82 isn't the worst. But then 62 playing at full forward against Richmond, then a 74 where he should have had a 90. He dropped like 4 or 5 marks, and if you guys did see me on the watch along, I wasn't happy when he dropped. There was, I think, the third or fourth one he dropped near the 50. I think it's in the third quarter. Safe to say that I wanted to trade him at that point. But yeah, I think we hold. Butters potentially could be back this week as well, which I think will be better for Horne-Francis. I think we looked at it as a positive, but I think it was a negative, and it'll be a positive when he comes back. And he's already dropped nearly 80k. He's going to be at almost his lowest point soon, and if he pops a 120 at some point, we're not going to be shocked. So for me, he's a hold, but he gets the -3 anyway from a poor game. Moving to the rest of the players here, but as always, if you guys haven't smashed the like on the video already, please do. It takes 2 seconds and really, really does help out the channel a whole bunch, and very much appreciate all the support. So make sure you guys smash a like and subscribe to our channel. We're on just past 3,500. We're heading towards 4,000 as our next big goal. So if you can help us join the 4K club, please subscribe to our channel. Daily content throughout the season, so make sure you do that. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, as I mentioned, 112 on debut. Very, very happy with that. Obviously, when I went him over Sinclair, that was the decision for me last week, was Sinclair and Nasai. I had Sinclair on my team for a whole bunch. I had Nasai in my whole team for a whole bunch. But 112, can't complain. It was only 22 points difference between the two. Yes, I could have had obviously an extra few points with Sinclair, which sucks, but I think Nasai at the end of the day is going to be a season-long keeper for me, and unless something happens to him, and I'm pretty happy. He was really good. Like, he scored 100 points in the final 3 quarters. So if he can keep that going and put up a 120, more these 120s, 130s moving forward, I think he's going to be a great pick. So really happy to have him in the team finally. I wanted to start with him. Didn't start him because I went for Tom Stewart, but good to have Nasai back in and sort of really fix up that mistake. But Tom Stewart obviously didn't play, meant that I didn't have Trainers 78. I really should have just played Trainers 78 over Sam Taylor and played Sam Taylor. If Stewart didn't play, I think I lost out on 18. So if Trainer, I had his score over the 60, that meant that 60 would have been bumped out. So I lost 18 points there. So obviously that sucks, but it could have been a lot. It could have been worse, right? So at the end of the day, didn't see Lindsay getting a 12. Didn't see a few of the other guys going as low as they did. So 78, end of the day, it is what it is. Short 101, good to see him bounce back. Obviously, tough matchup against Easy matchup against St Kilda. So it's good to see him ton up. He had a back-to-back age against Carlton and Port, who were the tough matchups, which is what I was meaning to say. But it's good to see even an easy matchup him go into the three figures. Good to see as well his kick-ins were back up again. So he had the most for Richmond. So he had 4. Vlosten Brown had 3. Miller, Trainer had 2. And Broad had 1. So I'm hoping that they're going back to Short taking the kick-ins. He's their best kick in the team. He should be taking kick-ins. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. And he can keep going well because he was the top scorer for Richmond in this game. And if Richmond are going to do a bit more chipping around the back, Short will be the guy that benefit from that. Joel Frazier, 63. Little bit unders, obviously. Was a tough game from him. Break-even's now at 65, so it's shot up. He might not make as much now unless he can pop another 100 score like he did in round 1. He's probably just going to sit there at D5, D6 for me for the time being. But Callum Mills, obviously, hopefully he's back this week. That's only 50k to get him to Mills in a couple of weeks. So I'm more than happy to make that move potentially the following week or even the week after if I need to. So Frazier's someone that I could move, but he's a low priority. I think he can still put up a good score. Don't think the Carlton game really suited him, but he now comes up against Freo. Brisbane's tough, but then St Kilda and Giants is tough. Port's tough. So it's 2 of his next 3 are fine, but then it gets a bit trickier after that. So, I think he could be a hold for a couple of weeks. But, yeah, probably someone we've got to start planning to maybe move on within the next month or so. Sam Taylor, well, this was a watch, doing the Giants-Hawthorn game on the watch-along. Just wanted Sam Taylor just to get some +6s. And I know that he's not a transition player. People kept saying that in the watch-along. I understand that. I just wanted some +6s. He got some in the end. He got 7 of marks and got to a 60. So at the end of the day, that's not too bad. He outscored some players that had poor weeks. So I'll take it. A little bit of cash made there. Break-even's up to 57. He does have West Coast this week. So I think that there's a chance, I think, with the trades I'll look at, which I'll say towards the end of the video. But he may stay for 1 week. And then I'll trade him in round 5 and get some cash that way, or even go him up to someone. But that's what I'm potentially looking at there. Matt Roberts had the week off, obviously, with the bye, so it'd be good to have him back scoring for us this week. Then Luke Trainer, 78, was really solid. Good match against the Saints, but just good to see him put up a good score regardless. Against Brisbane at the MCG this week, so a bit trickier, but maybe some +6s there. And Zach Reid, 83, he's been really good. A lot of cash made again this week, 73k. Break-even still is -13. Making a whole bunch of cash. He's going to be really handy this week to loop a couple of guys. Maybe I'll loop a Trainer or a Taylor or someone on the bench. That'll be what I'll be looking at potentially doing this week. But very, very good start to the season from a fantasy standpoint. Moving to the midfield. Midfield, unfortunately, let me down this week with some of the 2 big players. So Jordan Dawson, 85. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous with this. Obviously, he's up to near 35% ownership. So I guess the ownership there is probably going to help a bit. But last year, I talked about this all in the back half of last year where I'm convinced he was injured and his calf was strapped for the back half of the year and the calf strapping was back today. I think it had a bit more to do with the fact that this game he looked to be moving fine enough around the ground. Didn't look to be a huge impact. He had the most CBAs for the Crows, had 27 of, I think it was like 32 or 33. So clearly the number 1 guy in there. And if he's attending that many CBAs, he's going to be averaging this 115 like he is for over the first 3 weeks. And this game wasn't good for these mids. Like you had guys like Matt Crouch had a 50-odd. I think Tom Powder 70. Sheezel was on track for probably a 70, but obviously went to half-back and had a good last quarter. I think LDU scored a 60 or a 70 as well. So a lot of poor scores there. I know that Saliga and Rankin scored well, but didn't seem like the type of game that these mids were going to score well in. Dawson wasn't able to do that. So his run coming up's okay. Gold Coast is good. Geelong's good on paper, but Mark O'Connor could definitely do a job on Jordan Dawson in that game. So that's a bit of an interesting line. Then Bedford here as well. Does Bedford go to Rankin or Dawson? Who knows? Bedford didn't really do a hard tag really on anyone. He went to Day more in the second half, but first half he was a bit on Newcomb, bit on Day, bit on Nash. Like he sort of roamed around everywhere. But then, Freo, Carlton, Port. So it's not the easiest next sort of 6 weeks, but gets a little bit easier or a couple of good matchups there. A bit trickier again. So Crows have got a bit of an up and down run for fantasy-wise. So we'll have to see how it looks. But Dawson's a hold, obviously. Hopefully he can bounce back. But yeah, just a bit of a flag on him. I wouldn't be trading into him now. His break-even's up a bit high. So you're hoping that maybe he drops another couple of lower scores and can drop. But hopefully Dawson can bounce back against Gold Coast, which should be a decent enough matchup. Connor Rozee was disappointing as well, 84. Copped the Durham tag in this game. 84 was disappointing when the 2 big midfielders that have been going well so far this season dropped 80s. But St Kilda this week for Rosie. If Butters is back, I don't think Windy's going to be going to Rosie. Probably go to Butters, even though Butters is first game back. But hopefully Butters is back and Rosie can go well. Because Rosie was going well against them last year. Obviously, that injury happened in third quarter against them at Adelaide Oval. But I do expect Rosie to bounce back with a better score. Because it also looked like Kako was doing a bit of a job as well. I forgot to mention that last night. Kako was roaming around a bit with Rosie around the ground. So I expect Rosie and Dawson to both bounce back. Clayton Oliver, great pick for obviously the nearly 55% of us that have got him. He's looking very, very good. I know scores aren't huge, but 108, 114 to back up from the 84 that he got in round one against Giants. Tough matchup. The run really opens up now. Like he's got Geelong, Essendon, Freo, Richmond, West Coast. That is a dream 5-week stretch coming up. Arguably 5 of the best teams to come up against. So, I think Oliver can put up some 120s in that run. He's looking really good. The burst looks back. So I would be, if you don't have him, he's still a great option. 867K, it's not too late. Because if he's going to average 105, 110, he's going to be close to top 8. And he's a very, very underpriced premium still if he didn't start. Because he's only gone up 70K. That 84 really sort of slowed at the start, but break-even's now 60. Went up 39K this week. He's going to be probably over 900K next week. So, yeah, jump on board if you don't have him. Caleb Daniel was in the midfield this week for me. Obviously, bringing Rankin in. He played the last game, so I just thought for the flexibility, put him there. But 115 was fantastic. He's just getting it done. 114, 115, back-to-back weeks. I dare say there'll be some big scores coming. I expect some 130s at some point. He's looking really good. He's top 6 forward. Break-even 7, made 91K this week. It's ridiculous. And he's just going to continue to make a bulk cash and score really well. Top 6 forward, bring him in if you don't, but pretty much all of us do, so he's fine. Naden O'Driscoll, been really happy with him as a starting pick. 71K made this week, 99 points. I didn't actually check the CBAs from this game on the pod last night, because I didn't actually get to watch this Freo West Coast game come back from the Crows game. But CBAs, he still didn't have a lot, right? He only had the 2. It was obviously Jackson the most. Brayshaw, Sarong, and Johnson all had 20 apiece. Erasmus and Bolton had 11 each, and then O'Driscoll had 2, with Voss obviously chipping out in the ruck with 4 CBAs. So the hope is that maybe an Erasmus or someone like that gets dropped, he gets a bump in the CBAs, but Young will come back at some point. So I just expect this to be O'Driscoll's role. But then again, his run is great over the next 6 weeks. Like, look at this, like Bulldogs, Richmond, Melbourne, Adelaide, bit trickier, but then St Kilda, Collingwood, great matchups to come. He's going to make some really good cash for us, and he's the guy that we need in our midfield is that mid-pricer. I don't know if it's too late to bring him in. You've missed out on 155K of cash. I still think this could be a week you could do it. Like if you got a Sanders in your mids, if you went Rankin, or you got a mid forward in your midfield, or if you got a Never and you didn't make that switch, maybe you could look at doing something like that because he's going to make good cash, good matchups to come. So you could potentially look at that switch, but it's getting to a point now where you've missed a lot of the cash gen, so you're probably wanting to find the next guy. So Xavier Lindsay was the sad story from the weekend. Not as bad as what it could have been though. A report came out yesterday saying that Lindsay has escaped serious damage to his knee. So no ACL. Apparently it was just a medial ligament sprain, so just an MCL sprain there. And they're sounding like it could only be a week, maybe a week or 2 out. They said he's unlikely to play against Geelong on Friday night. Obviously, you just never know, but probably unlikely. But their words here in Josh Gablich doing the article here saying that Melbourne will assess Lindsay during the week and don't expect him to miss much football if he doesn't prove his fitness in time for round 4. So if he doesn't prove his fitness, there's an outside chance that he could play. We don't expect him to play next week. He's probably back the week after, potentially. And worst case, he's 2 weeks. I think he's a hold. Break-even still was 37, so it could have been... Obviously, his bulk cash he was going to make is gone. But if he can pop another 90 or so, that break-even's going to go back down again. So I still like Lindsay. I'd be holding him. I'd be playing a different rookie. Obviously, Maurice is going to be probably a very popular option. People are going to be bringing in. So a Langford as well, maybe an option. So I'll be looking at getting guys like this in and covering Lindsay for the week because he'll be back in. He was playing off half-back, got 2 really quick +6s, and I was thinking that this could be a ton coming up, and unfortunately did his knee not too long after. Levi Ashcroft, 58. Bit of a wet game, obviously. This one, obviously, as we knew. 58's not the worst. Richmond this week, the MCG, could be a big score. I'm hoping this could finally be Levi's first ton. But then, again, as I said, we've said with the Brisbane players, Bulldogs, Collingwood, St Kilda, Gold Coast, North, Melbourne, and then Melbourne. Really good run to come. Hawthorn, Essendon, even Adelaide's not too tricky. Giants the only real tricky one before their bye in round 16. So I do like Levi Ashcroft. Obviously, we all got him. Continue to play him on field, I think, with some confidence there. Sam Lawler, 46, bit quiet in this here. Break-even's up to 25 now. And as good as he's played and as good as he's looked, it could be a case of he could be a guy you could move out. He's made some decent enough cash, like he's made 100K, but his break-even is 25. 46 isn't awful, and he got 62 and 68 a couple weeks before. It's not a must trade, but if you need to get Marais in and make cash to do it, I don't think he's the worst player to be trading at, because I don't see him going and scoring hundreds and burning you. He's a guy that I think his ceiling's probably capped at 70. I think that's probably where he's at. He's obviously an impact player at the moment, not getting bulk CBAs. I'm just looking at the CBAs here. You had Taranto 27, Hopper 24, Ross 12, McIntosh 10, Lawler 9, Dow 9. So they're just throwing a lot of guys through that mid. Obviously, Taranto and Hopper are the two main guys in there, but that third position is almost just like a bit of a carousel. They're just sort of floating guys through there. So I'm not ruling out potentially moving him on this week, a couple of guys. So, he's someone that you can potentially look at trading. Hasty, 28. Obviously, he came on as sub. Didn't score in the second quarter, even though he was on. Scored 28 in the second half, so could have been worse. I just don't know if he's even in there. Still will come back in. A bit of a just precautionary, apparently. Hasty's probably the obvious guy. Obviously, O'Connell will be out with concussion, but I just don't think Hasty did enough to hold his spot. If he's held his spot, I'll probably hold. His break-even's only 17, right? So if he was to hold his spot and Canberra came back in, then I'd look at downgrading a Lawler. But if one of these two are out, that's the trade I'm looking at. But Hasty, 28, hopefully can score well. Because he was on 31 at quarter time against the Crows. So he was looking great off half back and just didn't really get into it. I think not starting in the game and then being the sub didn't really get him into the game. And he sort of was, like with Sinclair and Nasai dominating, he didn't really have much well back there. But hopefully he can score well moving forward. But I don't know if he's going to be in the team. I think he could even be still the sub next week. Tristan Cherry, 77, was obviously disappointing. Dropped 50K, 152 break even, so he's dropping. It was obviously a big scare. What was it? It would have been the first quarter contest with Rob, came down, grabbed at the hamstring, went off, and obviously we're all thinking that he's injured on a very low score and dropping bulk cash. But thankfully came back on, played out the game, rested like the last 7 minutes on the bench. Obviously we'll keep an eye on news and see if there's anything sort of more serious with this, and if he does miss time. I don't think he will, because he played out the game and he wasn't grabbing it after the first couple of contests. Maybe just got a bit tight and played out the game was fine. So I think he'll be fine, but just saying to keep an eye on. Obviously, if he's out, that'll suck, and he's got a couple of tricky matchups. But this is the reason, right? This is why people are nervous about starting him. 90 and 77 in the two tricky matchups. He's still got two more to come there after the big score in round one. His tackles are down, so he's only had the 13 combined in the 3 games. Obviously, gave away 4 free kicks. Obviously, didn't help today, right? He's still getting a lot of the ball, right? He's still playing the ball. With marks, obviously, are down. The tackles are down. Free kicks, obviously, there was a heap today. So if he can just get rid of those free kicks, take 1 or 2 more marks, and get those tackles back up, I think he could be okay. But yeah, just someone to watch. We're not if he's fit, we're not trading him out. Obviously, we started him, so we just pushed through. But yeah, poor score from the Big X on Sunday in a tricky matchup against O'Brien. Tom De Koning, on the other hand, though, absolutely smashing at the moment. 123 average. I think he's in the top. I think he's the 4th highest averaging player. I think he might even be the 30. Might even jumped up. I think obviously Dorse with the 80, but 132, 107, 130 to start the season's fantastic. Obviously a very good run to start. Got some decent matchup. Obviously Collingwood's okay. West Coast is good. North is tricky, but then got Geelong's good. So it's a bit of a mixed sort of up and down run, but he's just so good around the ground. Like 28 touches, 19, then 28 touches again. Got stuck on the bench a heap in that second game, so could have arguably gone 120 in every game start the season. He's looking very much like the similar to a Tristan Sherry pick from last year for this year. So hopefully he keeps going. Over $1 million now, which is fantastic. 117K made, break even still 71. Still cash to make, playing really well, and been a great starting pick for those that have started with him. Harry Boyd obviously didn't play. Don't think he'll be getting in back just for the near future, but hopefully if they have a game where they rest Marshall or Boyd comes in, scores well, he'll make bulk cash because his break-even's like -4. So yeah, -4. So hopefully he comes back in at some point. But yeah, we'll just keep an eye on it. Horn France, we already talked about, 74. Hopefully bounces back with a better score. Jack McRae ended up taking the 113 from him as captain. Obviously, I was looking at Dawson captain, so I'm glad I made that call and banked the 113. That's why I've always set my line at 110, just because you just don't know what's going to happen. And okay, Dawson could have gone 130. I would have lost 17 points, but instead he went 85, and I could have lost 28 points, right? So glad I kept McRae captain. He's looking fantastic, just keeps getting it done. Obviously not huge score, but game time's obviously high. His tackles just weren't as high as last week, and marks were down, but still got plenty of the ball. He's just a great option, and he's going to be top 6 forward. Could even be the number 1 forward based on what he's done. He's turned up in 3 games in a row, so been a very, very good pick. Isaac Rankin, really, really happy with him on debut. Happy to bring him in. 25k made this week, break even still 70. And he would have turned up in all 3 games if he didn't get subbed out in this game, right? So, yeah, he would have feasted in those last 6 minutes of the third quarter and then the last quarter there. But 107, 170, and 116, very, very good start. He was very good. 30 touches, 5 marks, 5 tackles was good to see. So good to see he can get some tackles and marks. 2 behinds, even could have been a 130. So I think that 130 ceiling could be tapped into this year from Isaac Rankin. I think he's a top 6 forward. I think you need him. 865k is still a good price if you don't have him. He's not highly owned. He's not quite 20% yet, but he will be someone I think people will be looking at heavily. Maybe Sanders to him is going to be a pretty popular trade this week, so something to watch. Sanders, 73. Lowe's okay. He 4 points in the first quarter was poor, and 11 points in the last quarter, but that second quarter where he had, what was it? He had 39 points, or actually was it 41 points in the... Was it 41 points in the third quarter? He was just everywhere. Like, he just got so much of the ball. Yeah, what did he get? So, second quarter, he had, 41 points, 8 disposals, 2 marks, 3 tackles, and a goal. We know that's he can do that, but it's the role isn't quite there. CBAs did take a bit more of a bump, but he's still behind. So, Kennedy and Libba had the most with 21 CBAs each. Ed Richards had 17, Sanders had 10, Fraser had 7. So, it's a bit of a tighter mix there. Harms and West had a CBA as well, but it's a tighter mix there. But he's still behind in the pecking order. His game time's still low, only 70%. So I think he can go if you've got him. He does remind me a bit of like no fault of his own. He's a better player than a Tom Phillips, but it does remind me of that guy that just keeps getting 70s and doing just enough that we just keep saying he can stick around. But I feel like it's the earlier you get rid of him, it's probably better because his role's not going to get any better. It's going to arguably get worse because Bont will be back very soon. I think that it was listed as was it 2 to 4 maybe or 3 to 5 on the injury report. So he'll be back within a few weeks. I think they were talking about potentially gather around him being back for. Not sure if he'll be back in time for that. Yeah, 3 to 5. Trelaw's 4 to 6. But they do have guys that are going to be within the next month. And if you're like me and you put him into you technically could have him in the midfield and go to a midfielder, I think he could be a guy we trade out. And there's even a few guys below him that you could even make a bit of cash from going him down. So that's something I'm looking at doing this week. Looking at some of the players here. Bailey Smith, 112 was great again. 112. Got done with the tackles this time. So was it the tackles or the marks he got in the first game that he went well? So, it was both. 5 marks, 5 tackles. But 11 tackles is great. I think he's going to have a game this year where he goes 140, 150. We've seen that ceiling before, but 3 marks, 11 tackles is great. Even 3 frees against was the other thing as well. But 112 points against Brisbane. In Brisbane, tricky matchup. I expect him to keep going along, and he's going to be a top probably 2 forward, maybe top 3 forward at worst. I think Daniel, Smith and McRae probably the 3, probably in the reverse order of that. So is where I'd have them. What was his CBAs like, actually? That's one thing I'm just keen to see. So he had 8 CBAs. Atkins had 18, Holmes 16, Dangerfield 15. Then you had Smith and Bowes on 8 each, and then a couple of guys had a couple of CBAs there. So he's definitely someone that will continue to get some CBAs, but he's going along very nicely. Wicks obviously was useful this week with the captaincy and able to loop on Davidson, who we mentioned before was fantastic. 125 made in bulk cash. He'll be on my field moving forward. Connor Stone, 68 was good. Made some good cash this week. 51k, -4 break even. I'm glad I held. A few people might have traded off of him to get a Corey Warner or to get another player in. So I'm glad I held, and he'll make some good cash moving forward. And I think he's in the best 22 for GWS. So happy with the 68. He's got West Coast this week. Could arguably play him on field if you can move a few things around. But West Coast isn't the easiest matchup for defenders as well. That's the other thing to note. And final player, Finn O'Sullivan. Better game from him. He looked good. He got some +6s, got a bit more involved. I think he took the 5 marks in the end. Yeah, 16 disposals as well. 52, so not a huge score, but it's good to see him moving in the right direction. 26 break even, up 17k. He'll be a slower burn. He's not going to average probably much more than 60, 65, I don't think. But if he can pop an 80 or something this week and keep going. Sydney's not a great matchup. 3 of the next 4 is pretty hard, actually. So not great for like your Sheasels and that. But Sydney, Carlton and Port in the next 4. Like Gold Coast is okay, but it is at Barossa, so who knows what's going to be like there. Opens up a bit more after, but he's on our benches probably anyway. So just hopefully ticking over some cash gen and moving in the right direction. So that is how we went in round 3. Hopefully we can continue to maybe crack the top 15k this week and continue to move forward. Top 10k, I don't know if we'd be able to move up 9k ranks in a week, best 18, but that's the hope. In terms of what I'm looking at doing, obviously I haven't had a huge amount of time. I haven't been able to play around my team. I'm recording this pretty much straight after our pod from last night. But early thoughts is that Sanders could go to a Marek and make near 200k from that move. And then going a Hasty or a Camporelli to Marias and having a little bit of cash banked, ready to maybe go like a Wicks down and then going maybe a Sam Taylor up. Technically, I could go Sanders down to Marek and go Sam Taylor up this week, but I still feel like I need to probably bring in like a Marias into the team for cash gen, and Marek as well is going to make good cash. So I might go those two and bank some cash this week because best 22 the following week. That cash could be quite handy to upgrade because I should easily be able to go Wicks down and Taylor up, even if it's to a Callum Mills maybe. If he comes back this week, watch him for a week and then bring him in against Collingwood for gather round. That might be something I do look at doing. Yeah, so a few options there. I have even toyed around with maybe going like a Sam Taylor down to Bice and going another rookie sideways to Marias and getting 2 rookies in, but maybe getting Marek in over Bice is the play for points and some cash as well. But we'll see what we do. We've got all week to be thinking about what we'll be doing with our trades. But in the comments, guys, let me know how you guys went this week. Let me know your score, your round rank, your overall rank, your plus and minus 3s. Put them in there and let me know how you guys went in round 3. And if you did enjoy this video, as I said before, make sure you smash a like on the video. Let's try and see if we can get over 100 on the video. That'd be fantastic. And also subscribe to our channel. 3,600 is the next small goal, but 4K is the big goal. We're creeping closer to it. So if you can help us reach the 4K club, subscribe. There's daily content coming on the channel. There's always a video popping up. So make sure you guys subscribe and get involved. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night for our Tuesday night Q&A as always. So if you've got questions, feel free to go over there and get involved. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Perth time, answering all your questions. So there. I'll also be recording a Patreon exclusive Q&A in a few days' time. So it was originally on the Mondays, but we've changed it to Wednesday nights now, where I'll record that. So get a lot more information. So if you guys do want to become a patron and get your questions answered, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. You get your Patreon exclusive Q&As. You get the Ask Me on Q service for free. So that's a service where you get personalized audio responses for all your questions. So you can do full team reviews, send through photos, trade questions, any question you have, you can head there. And if you're a patron, you get it for free. Or you can just head to askmeonq, spelled QU.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Get all your questions answered there for a small fee to help support us out if you so wish to do that. Yeah, links for both of that and the Patreon are in the description below. Yeah, we'll be back, as I said, tomorrow. And then we're back for our usual content throughout the week as well. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hopefully you guys went well in round 3 as we look forward to round 4. Hopefully things are looking up for us. So thanks, everyone, for watching. Catch you guys in the next video. So thanks, everyone. See ya.